Welcome to the AAOTB podcast. In early development, we have one of my favorite people on the planet, an extraordinary composer and trumpeter and just influencer, like someone who just like someone who low key like changed the direction of like multiple musicians out here on these streets. On the low, like, bro, everyone who was in your band was like a different person. Like, no, like, I swear. So for anyone who doesn't know who I'm talking about, Ryan Easter is with us,
For
and
anybody
I
that
am
can't see my
so grateful to have him.
my eyebrows are leaping right now. You hear what he's saying about me?
So yeah, for anyone who doesn't isn't aware, who know who Ryan Easter is, we're gonna get into that. So Ryan, I want to just ask you, man, there's so many different directions we can go because like you're someone who I anything, pretty much anything, but especially in music, and I feel like I'm gonna get something from you that I may not even understand what your position is in that moment, but I'm gonna sit with it and be thinking about what the conversation we had like for weeks. It could be anything,
Oh, so.
and that's been it's kind of been it's been on that wave. It's been on that wave for me, and you're just someone who I feel like is really understands like the direction that music has been going in, and like our generation, like kind of how we can actually take high level musicianship with like whatever is happening on the streets in music and like make them compatible. And so I want you to speak on that. So I mean, I want to start with this question, which is, and I actually remember, I loosely remember this kind of time, but I want to ask you, what was your inspiration for creating a group called the Trap Music Orchestra?
All right. Um, so initially, um, first of all, hi everybody. Hey out there. But it was I think 2012. I'm thinking it was. This is earlier than I think even guys in the group may know themselves. But it was during my first year at Berkeley. Two things happened during my first year. The first thing that happened was Robert Glasper released Black Radio, the initial volume, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you can imagine that the attention on that, especially at a school like Berkeley, was pretty heavy.
Yeah,
Like that was
I remember that being like that album being like the theme of my entire like freshman and a half
right.
year. It was just that
So
album.
so that was definitely a moment. But second thing that happened was shortly after that, the Don't Like video from Chief Keef dropped.
Chief Keef don't like.
Yeah. Not even that long after Black Radio was released. And
Okay.
while the school environment I was around was excited about Black Radio, everybody I know back home was just like, "Hey, yo, did you see
Right.
this nigga Chief Keef?" Like that was the talk.
Mm-hmm.
And from there on, I started to notice a couple of just like striking similarities, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that inspired me with here's what happened.
You saw like
There's a
you saw like a Venn diagram. You said, okay, this is
That's when it
happening over
started.
here, and this is happening over here, and you were looking at the contrast, the in between. You're looking at what they shared in common.
Right.
Is that
So
what you're basically saying? Okay.
So that's when the little hamster wheels started going, right? So then there was a small house party in Lower Austin. And excuse the amount of details I might go into with any of these stories, but anybody involved is a phenomenal person. I guarantee it. My boy Jack, Wild Card Jack, a select group of people know about Wild Card Jack. He's an amazing person. He played guitar and a percussionist and drummer by the name of Timber.
Uh huh. I'm just showing the don't like
Yeah,
video in the
yeah,
background for
gotcha.
the context here. So you're at an Austin
Yeah.
party. We're listening.
And my man's Timber from Baltimore. We had put together a small group, and for that group, I wrote an arrangement of Love Sosa from Chief Keef
Okay.
for I think like jazz quartet, but then also kind of like gave it almost like a prog rock type of vibe to
Mm-hmm.
it too. Just because early on, one of the important things that I saw within being a musician, especially being uh, a musician of color, was that there's there's a long lineage that you can follow, right? But at no point in the lineage of black music, American music, at that matter, at no point in the lineage is there a break in its continuity. Everything was born from something else. So during that year, 2012, that's when I started thinking about that. Because on a surface level, like black radio and Chief Keef are kind of like two very extreme dynamics of black music. Some would even say, like, how could you even frame them together? And for me, the answer to that question was how could you not? Like, how does any of this have any sort of separation from anything else? So I thought about that for a while. Um, and it also just ties into being from Richmond, Virginia, because like when they talk about America or places like New York being cultural melting pots, I think Richmond itself is almost like a subcultural melting pot where you have so many avenues of lifestyle interwoven with each other. So like for some people who aren't from here, like this is a city that gave you D'Angelo and cats like Butcher Brown. Like I've known those each of those guys for a while. But at the same time, it's also a place that gave you Guar. Like there's a hardcore scene. There's every type of rap scene here. You got cats like Skills and Nicholas F that came out of here. So having all so there's that, and then there's also the the different avenues of lifestyle of just black people that are interwoven together. And one thing I noticed from being just like a kid and growing up and becoming older and being able to reflect on the past a little bit clearly is that I realized, especially after traveling a lot, going to a lot of different places, is that Richmond is a lot like other, like predominantly black cities out there. You have you have different facets of the black community that all around each other. So just like different nuances of what we can call like the Black experience in America, and being surrounded by all of them, not just, a prototypical like hood story or even like the Disney Channel suburb story. Like everything and that's few, far, and in between is correlated and coexisting with each other. Like every type of everything. And with that respect, you start to notice how things are connected. So even before getting to the musical perspective of it, I always just saw how the world was pieced together in a way that was kind of harmonious. So then fast forward. I know if you were paying attention, it's like, oh damn, this nigga going on some kind of tangent right now. But no, we're getting to the meat. We're getting to we getting to potatoes. I I am a fuck nigga. Sorry, excuse my French, but 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 fast forward to I believe it's 2014. Um, I was listening to Young Thug, and this was early in Young Thug's like spotlighted career. Like this was when he was doing things like 1017 Thug, like early mixtapes, and I was I think at the time, my favorite class might have been arranging too. I'm a fucking nerd, but I love that class. I love that shit. And after being in class and listening to so much Count Basie,
Hmm.
I listened to Young Thug and it was just like, hold up, wait a second,
I'm hearing something.
hold on. And that's where it all locked in. Like the moment that Black people defined what we know today as swing, the essence and the feeling of that, we never let go of. And it appears in some of the wildest ways. So all of a sudden, I'm listening to Young Thug over some like TM88 beat, and I'm just like, oh shit, I hear Count Basie. And at that moment, it's
Damn.
just like, yo, I want a big band that plays this shit because it swings.
That's facts though. That's facts. It's
Yeah.
crazy, man. Because like the more I started listening to like, the more I really started listening to certain rap artists, and like actually like, cause the other thing is like why I think we are so like man Ryan, like we got like a crazy connection, like cause like we used to freestyle in fucking my like or dorm room, living room, like all the time. Like people who weren't like there, it was like you could not come through the living room without freestyling if we had a beat on. It was
That
like we
that
would
ba-
make you freestyle.
that
Like,
basement was ignorant, boy.
and we were all goddamn jazz musicians, like playing. The first time we met, I remember we were playing Footprints. Like we were playing in some
Hmm.
ensemble, and I remember we played Footprints, and you were telling me like, can you play some like less conventional chords? Like you're playing the chords like that, like play some like more dissonant chords. And I was like, okay, you want to like, you want to go there with it, because like you never know when you just play with people, you don't know what to expect, you know what they want to hear. But
It's even more than what they want to hear, right? And I think I know how to articulate what it is more than I did back then. And I know I probably have the funniest history of losing rhythm sections out of people I know. But the only reason I would say something like that is because it's like you have to talk to me. We're talking together here.
hmm
And you have to be ready for any kind of conversation as well. So even approaching just like that relationship between, like soloists and accompanists. It also goes into how many perspectives are you willing to accept as a person? Because you can go into, like you said, we're playing footprints, right? You can play footprints or we can talk about footprints. It's something as like simple and almost childish as that that makes all of the difference.
Hmm. That's deep. I gotta think. See, I gotta think about that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And if you never know how somebody feels about feet. So if we're talking footprints, you gotta be ready for whatever.
That's facts, man. See that, and that's the type of way you think. That's like you're like a true jazz musician. Is like we're thinking like about footprints. Like now we're thinking feet in the sand. Like how do we create the picture of feet in the sand like footprints with your instrument? In the
Right.
context of this, it's like
And if you
that's
got
kind of
some,
what the like where your mind is at, and then that's what you're channeling through your instrument.
you got some people just walk through the sand differently. Some people walk,
Absolutely, some people like
some
to
people
drag
take
their
their
feet.
skips,
Pick up your goddamn feet.
you know. So you just gotta be willing to have that
That's the thing about
level
playing with
of
people,
intimacy.
man. Is everyone brings something different to the table, and it's just like, how does it all blend together? How does it all sound when it's mixed together? And I think a great or a great producer and a great band leader is someone who can bring the right elements together, to
Mhm.
create the bigger picture that is what we're trying to convey.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
I think what the way you did that with Trap Music Orchestra, I think was like for the time that you were doing it and the level you were doing it at with what you had, I think it was pretty off the chart. You had a pretty dedicated band, and that's a very hard and important thing. Obviously it was college. It was a little different when no one's getting paid. But it's just like you were able to really convey your vision, and I think that's the ultimate like achievement as a composer, or as a like an arranger or someone who's like putting it together. And I think you should definitely keep your arrangements of like Love Sosa or all the stuff you that you've done. You should keep because those can come back around and still can grow and grow and grow as the years go on. And no one else is doing that. Like everyone does things
Yeah.
in their own way. Like obviously Robert Glasper plays a lot of hip hop and stuff, but everyone is has their own way of doing things. I still haven't really heard anything kind of like quite like Trap Music Orchestra, and it's crazy because right after Trap Music Orchestra happened, and I know that there is like a shit. It was like pretty much like a trend of like let's make trap music with like live bands. You know what I mean?
Um. So going back, first thing you said, I also want to make it clear that I was and still am incredibly, um, not just fortunate, but unworthily fortunate to have come across such incredible musicians and people
Absolutely,
and get the chance to work with them.
I feel that
Um,
they brought your
even
dream. They brought your dream to life. Like
and it's even a story about how we got there because there's a lot of people in my life that you know experiences that are irreplaceable that I met because I took that risk and I asked for help. And that's something that people who are close to me know how irritatingly stubborn I am. So even the notion of asking for help is like, all right, Ryan, you're either gonna do it or you're not. And so even putting the band together, I did the classic. staple a sign up poster all over the place.
That's bro, can't go wrong. And I think that shit is
And
underrated. Even today, like I mean, now shit's different post COVID and shit. But even today, I feel like that's like exactly what you want to do
and
in your
I
town. You
felt
want people
crazy.
to know. And here's the thing: even if people aren't in your band, you can like they can then know about your group because of that. You know what I mean? It's like you never know who might see that and be like, "Oh, what's this?" You know?
That's right, kids. It was printed paper and ink. And it was it was even that was a moment because I remember at one point, and I'll skip some particulars, but there was a group of other black students, like a group of them that I ran into on the steps in the lobby, and they were looking at the sign or like asking what it's about. And I looked at them and I said some crazy shit like, yo, don't let somebody else come by and take your music from you. And they all looked at me like I was crazy, right? And it's because one, I kind of had the expectation that the first people to sign up would be some like curious white guys, which whatever. We all in
Yo,
music
man,
school. And
you can't.
this was the birth of the vibe.
But
I'm
the
just
fact of the matter is, some of those curious white guys that ended up being in the band, like,
oh no. We're
you
gonna
know
get
what I
to
mean? It's
we're gonna get to that. We're
like,
gonna
hey,
get
you
to
can
that.
play, right?
But something that I was told um when I was setting out to audition at Berkeley. My trumpet teacher here, his name's Elmer Smith. And I remember after I did my first audition, because I did it twice. I got into Berkeley both times, but the second time was to try and get a better scholarship. But as soon as I got the acceptance from the first one, every lesson we had, he said, and don't forget when you go up there that the music is black. He said that at the end of every lesson we had after I got accepted. So I never forgot that. So even creating this band was just like, it felt like, no, I have to do this. This isn't even like a want to do or like, oh, this might be cool. It's like, nah, nigga, this is what I'm supposed to do. This 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 pays homage and respect to so many different things in a new way that like why wouldn't I do it? Well, since it's sitting in my hand.
Right, right.
But no, from the first batch of cats that walked in the room, it just grew from there. I was like, you know what, y'all are here, so we are going to make this happen somehow, and it worked. It manifested into something not only tangible but like spiritual.
Facts.
And so, like you mentioned, like there being a rise of instrumentalization in trap music supposedly after we got a little bit popping.
I wouldn't necessarily was like, you know, like right after, but
I'm
I
not
noticed
saying,
it. I noticed it. That's me. I'm talking about me personally. I'm not trying to be like, oh, you
look,
know,
man,
this person was first, but like for me, it's like
I'll
I noticed it.
I'll put it this way. You were a little closer to the action than some other people, so if that's what you noticed, that's what you
I
noticed.
noticed, and I was very keen on this shit
I'm
too.
not, but I'm
I
not
noticed
making
at a
any
time
claim
where
to
I was
that.
actually paying attention to what was happening in music. Now I don't pay attention. I just catch a couple things here and there. I'm like,
Right.
okay, J. Cole dropped the album, but I don't really pay attention like that. But back then I was actually paying attention to like more of what's happening, you know?
Something that a friend of mine, Flora, another important person I met at Berkeley, because she pulled up on me in the fucking Berkeley Library when I was writing the first chart. Well, I think I was writing some Gucci Mane shit. She pulled up on me in the library, and that was the first time I even told somebody about it. But later down the line, she also said, you know, none of this, but remember, none of this belongs to you. Once you put something into the world, you gave it to the world. So like seeing seeing this culture like embrace the the instrumental talent behind the just
Production.
steady rise of how prominent hip hop is in the world is just a good thing to see. It's like, why wouldn't that be cool? Because that just means that there's even more of a sense of belonging
Mm.
and more of a sense of we know where we came from and we won't forget that.
Right, right.
So, like,
It's
it's
okay. You
just
can just
dope to
leave it.
see.
You can just leave it. It's okay. It's okay. I'm filming something right now, so it's okay. I'm in the middle of something right now, so it's okay. I don't want the noise. It's okay. Just go ahead and leave it. Thank you. Yeah, she. Sorry, my brother's friend is over.
It's all about.
My
It's
bad.
all about.
Go ahead.
Yeah, once it's out in the world, like, it doesn't belong to you. And you get to watch it grow. So, like, the sense of belongingness just remain. So, like, it just felt good to be doing that early work at the time that we were.
I feel that. You know, the way I see it is like all the stuff you do, it just really sets you up for the future. You know, like it pretty much lays the ground for you to like every artist I see that I'm like, okay, they're doing something right. I look back at what they were doing 10 years ago. Typically, nowadays artists, you know, they got that 1 year, media pack. I don't know how it works, but nowadays artists can blow up like, in a year or whatever. But I think of like, the long lasting artists, usually it's like 5, 10 years, like look back at what they're doing and then that you kind of see how they set themselves up. And I think that was something that you kind of like I view my first album, which you're actually on my first album. I don't know how you just like totally glossed over that. You're on my first album,
Hmm.
rapping on a song with Kayla Corinne. Yeah. So I mean, y'all can go check that out too. But and for me, it's like okay, you're part of my discography. You know what I mean? Like it's something that I can't take away now. And there's a lot of people
Hmm.
like that. It's very interesting to see who you work with early on, then now they're like, in a totally different place, and it's just like, wow, like, it's, fortunate that we were able to meet when we did. But what I was saying is, I view my first album as something where I pretty much opened up all the doors for me as a musician. I was playing piano, I was doing jazz trio, I was arranging for a ton of other singers, I was rapping on it, you were rapping on it. I would, like pretty much all of the above. So now, if I wanted to do any other type of music, I feel like I already had a foot, I was already had my foot in the door. It's like I'm already doing it to some extent. So it didn't really feel out of place if I wanted to make a jazz album or make a rap album or make like whatever type of album. It was like, okay, this is just an extension of what I was doing. And now I feel like with you, it's kind of the same type of thing where like because you've already established yourself as a composer, as an arranger, as a trumpeter, and as a vocalist, like as a rapper, it's like now any move you make, it's not gonna feel like a misstep. You know what I mean? It's like
Understood.
it's like you really could go in any direction.
It's funny you even mention that because there was a significant gap in output not that long ago. And that's one of the things I had to realize that kind of brought it back was that there's, it sounds corny, but it's like there's actually nothing that can't be done or that, there's nothing you can't do.
Right. That's true, man. It's really, I mean, it's like we don't like really want to like fully like step into that sometimes because it's like such a huge responsibility, because really what that means is we have to take full responsibility for like exactly where we are and like who we are and the
Mm-hmm.
time we have. You know, it's just it's like you have to take full accountability and responsibility when you like fully embrace that. You know, but with that, it's like where do you want to go? What do you want to manifest? You know, what do you see for yourself? What do you see yourself creating or bringing into this world?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, you know, I love that. I love that spirit. You know, I love that mentality. It's so powerful, and the people who really run with that, those are the ones who change the world. You know, the people who take that philosophy and are like, no one can tell me different. I don't care if you think I'm crazy. I'm
Mm-hmm.
going fully gung ho. Like, this is what I believe. I will be the number one artist in the world. Like, you know, like I'm gonna be the giant. Like all that type of stuff. Those are the ones who do certain things that maybe other artists wouldn't. You know, and I mean, there's obviously a lot more to it than that. You know, but I think that's the right type of mentality that everyone should have. You know, like I work a lot in education now. You know, I'm working teaching a lot, and when I see all the students, like, yeah, they all have the opportunity to like take it as far as they want. You know, it's just not everyone realizes how far they can really take it. You know, like
Mm-hmm.
even when I started, and I wanted to ask you, you know, one thing I wanted to ask you is how you, like, you know, what made you want to actually play the trumpet. You know, um, and I will ask you that. But basically, what I want to say is when I first started playing music, I never imagined that I would have done like a quarter of the things that I got to do, and I feel like I'm still at the beginning of my journey, you know, and yeah, it's just kind of miraculous. So I want to ask you that, like what made you, like, what age were you, and what made you want to actually start playing trumpet?
All right. So I was 5 or 6 when I took my first piano lesson.
Okay,
And then when I was 10 years old, I believe,
you stuck with it.
I was even 9. I think I was 10. Um, the band teacher at my elementary school at the time went around to the classrooms and basically said to all the kids, like, hey, the band needs new people who wants to join. And I said I wanted to join. Don't really know why. I think it was just because it was a chance to get out of class for a
Mm-hmm.
little bit every week.
Same.
But then he asked what instrument. And even though I've been taking piano lessons here and there, um, the only other real reference I had to wanting to play an instrument was in one of the other, I think it was like a music elective class in elementary school, something like that. Um, one of the period pieces for the early 1900s, I remember, was a Louis Armstrong song. I forget which one, but I know it
Mm-hmm.
was Louis.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it wasn't even about him or him playing the trumpet. It was simply that I remembered the name of the instrument, it's just trumpet. So it just happened
It
to be
just
what I
stuck with
said.
you.
It just stuck like that.
And so basically, you took piano lessons at 5. Did you continue taking lessons, or did you like take them and then stop?
Once I grabbed trumpet, I stopped playing piano.
Okay,
And
so you played up until about 10, and then you started playing trumpet. And
mhm.
originally it was like a school, like at school, like being in school and hearing a Louis Armstrong was what originally like sparked your interest. Okay,
Yeah, pretty much.
very cool. Yeah, man, I actually played clarinet when I was in third grade. Man, I was like probably 6 or 7 years old or something. and I played clarinet up until like I think seventh grade. And I didn't know at the time, but that's when I started really learning how to read music. Obviously, I didn't realize like, oh, I want to be a musician. I want to work on music later in
Right.
life. I was just like, yeah, cool, clarinet, and just going along with it. Like, oh, this is something different, and ended up actually not being a bad. Like, I could read. Like I wasn't a bad musician. I just was so young that I didn't really know what the ceiling really was. I didn't know
Right.
anything about music. I was like, oh, I'm in an orchestra class. They say to play this, but looking back, that's what made it so much easier for me to learn when I started learning piano later as I was a teenager. Well, I played piano. I didn't really learn how to play piano though until I was like a teenager in high school, and that's what made it much easier for me to like read, and start to wrap my head around that, and then learn how to read, and that was kind of like almost a saving grace for me being able to read because it's just like everyone can listen and try to play what they hear, but being able to read, it's just like you're able to decode things so much faster, and that, and then also going to community college. I went to community college before I went to Berkeley for 2 years, and if I did not do that, I would never have gotten into Berkeley because I was not ready. I did not even know what a 251 was. I didn't know the first thing. I knew about music, but I didn't know about jazz.
I can tell you. So like, even starting trumpet when I was young, two things happened that made me even care about making sure I was good at it.
Mhm.
Because when starting, it wasn't about being good at it. It was just about doing it. But two things happened that made me actually want to be good at it. And I think they pretty much set me up for
Mhm.
everything afterwards. One was I got braces. And for any brass wind player and probably woodwinds, I don't know how y'all handle it, but as a brass player, especially getting braces, it's torture.
Yeah, I could imagine having
But
metal on your teeth. Yeah, that's.
but I remember, but like I'm first. This is me starting on the instrument, and I get braces
Uh,
when I'm starting. So like it makes you not even want to play it.
yeah, yeah.
But but my dad used to always just tell me, "It's like you're not about to quit this." That was the only thing. It was like that was the first thing. It was just like
Shout out to pops, man. Like back.
the instilled, just like abstinence from wanting to quit anything. That was early. And then the second thing that happened was when I got to sixth grade. One of my friends who started band with me in elementary school, Francesca, she pulled up and she was better than me,
Mm.
like way better than me, like over one summer. And all I could think
She had been
was,
practicing.
yeah. And this was still early on for me. I had braces, and I just don't care to practice like that.
Mm-hmm.
Once pulled up the band class, sixth grade, and I heard her. It was just kind of like, nah, you ain't about to leave me behind. So
That was
that
some more
early
motivation.
that early competitive spirit
Right.
between me and her, because that lasted until like we were both done with high school and kind of like parted paths from there. But it was not wanting to quit something and also that competitive spirit of it. And I know that like especially trumpet players get a bad connotation around their name for being like over competitive or whatever. But look, it's human nature.
Yeah, I mean, I think
It's and
that
there's nothing wrong with it either. Like it made us want to be better.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think every single great at anything has a competitive drive. You know, you don't get to be great at anything without some type of competitive, like wanting to be. Well, I mean, obviously you want to be the best you can be, but also some part of you wants to be a standout. You know, you want to like, like if I'm going to Berkeley, like I'm going to Berkeley, I don't want to just be like another pianist. I want to be like, oh, that's that pianist. You know, like, that's the one you got to use him, or
Yeah.
everyone wants that. That's just healthy. That's normal. You know what I mean? I mean, part
Well,
of that is normal.
it wasn't even about being that person. It was just like, yo, you're you're the homie. You're not about to just walk over me.
Right.
Like I've got to be able to know how to give that
Well, yeah. I
attention.
mean, well, it was at that age where you weren't
Yeah.
thinking about getting called for a gig.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
were
This
just you
was
were
just
just
still not
like,
there.
you're not gonna be better than me at this.
But then, um, as far as getting into Berkeley, even that was a different journey because by the time me and I guess the friends that I had made that also played instruments and in that age group, by the time high school started, that's where, of course, for anybody, you start seeing a little bit of future trajectory
hmm
as far as interest and
Everyone's thinking
motivation.
about what they're about to do after high school.
Right. So that's when I first started trying to play jazz because I think my first band teacher in high school, he mentioned Clifford Brown. And next thing I know, my aunt sends me a Miles Davis CD. My mom puts me on the Chuck Mangione. It's just like, all right, this is a very new thing here.
Yeah, so you start opening up your ear to the other legends of the
Right.
instrument, and then you start to realize it's this whole new world out here, pretty much.
And so, and being from Richmond, like, especially like with my graduating class and some of the older guys that I know, marching band was still a big thing. So
hmm
that
Oh
Southern
yeah,
high
yeah,
step
yeah, yeah.
style march,
I feel like
especially
that's the culture over there, like especially like the
like
colleges.
yeah, you got a lot of HBCUs over here. Most of my band teachers went to Norfolk State.
See, that's way different. Like out where I'm from, that's not a thing. Well, yeah, that's not a thing out here
Gotcha.
in California. That's like not a
Yeah,
thing.
there's not as definitely not much of a as nearly as much of a HBCU presence as far as facilities. You got a lot of graduates out there, but not
Oh
facilities.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, no, no. It's just it's
But
totally it's totally different. But it's a whole culture out over there.
yeah, like I didn't even know what Berkeley
The
was
DMV
until I
area.
was 16.
Yeah, man. I was gonna ask you, how did you hear about Berkeley too? Because I feel like Berkeley is like a school that obviously it has its many pros and cons, like any school. Like, but I think that the one thing that no one can shit on Berkeley for is it brought a lot of people together
Hmm.
that
Absolutely.
just made connections and got to meet. Like, when I think of how much people I met at Berkeley that are in different places in the industry now, music industry, but also just in life in general, it's pretty astonishing considering I was only there for like 4 years.
Right.
Uh,
Well, I yeah, I didn't even hear about it until I was 16. But so I would say like freshman year of high school was still like just marching band. Sophomore year of high school, that's when I started getting into jazz. And the college here in Richmond, one of them, VCU, they have a jazz department. And I switched high schools, and my new band teacher, Mr. McCallum, he went to Virginia State, but he told me about there was a high school jazz program at VCU. And he said, you know what? You should audition because I feel like you're going to get in. thought, sure, fine, let's do it. And it's called the Greater Richmond High School Jazz Band. And auditioned, got in, but I think at the time, I think it was me and only one of a guy that were actually from Richmond. And I think I might have been the only one that went to public school in Richmond. So like that's when I started to see like, wait, there's not much of us out here like that. What's going on? Especially because like this is early, so like I'm starting to learn history and nomenclature. So it's like if every wild musician in history I'm hearing about, if 9 times out of 10 is a black person, and I finally get into this program, and like it's me and this
All
one
smart
other,
people.
yeah. So it's like, oh, okay, so this is what it looks
Yeah,
like.
that's that.
But
Yeah,
it was all
that's the times
about,
we kind of live in. Like,
but
and
it
yeah,
was
go ahead.
about hope, but it was about not only knowing the history, but making sure that I can hold my own. Because it's not like we had the most, sophisticated band program at our high schools in Richmond, but like there was a lot of heart, and our teachers put in a lot of care into making sure that we stayed disciplined. So just getting into the program felt good for me, and I stayed in that until I graduated. And like it was my first year, I was like third chair or something. But the second and third year, it was either solo or lead. Like that's helped me get serious about things. Like we were reading down charts and doing concerts for like a
Hmm.
whole season. And that's when I started hearing about Berkeley and like who goes there and like who
Right,
went
right,
there
right. Yeah,
and
yeah,
what
yeah.
and how big it is. So I visited when I was 16.
Oh,
And
okay. Was it
it was
like a
my
five
first.
week, or you just happened to
No,
go?
I just visited.
Uh
It's
huh.
like on some college visit shit. Um, so it was my first time in Boston at all. So
Hmm.
my mother took me to Berkeley, and she also took me to see the new school in New York. We knocked this out in 2 different weekends.
That's
But
interesting. Those are the two schools I applied to.
when we were in Boston, like there's also I'm in high school, so I'm also there to see other things and whatever. But it just so happened to be a Christian Scott clinic.
Oh shit! It
And
was the stars aligned.
when I saw Christian,
What
that
year was
was
that? That was probably like
um
2006 or something. 2007.
this is like 0809.
Okay.
You
Eh,
call me old. But not but no,
nah,
this is
bro.
like
We're in the
0809.
prime. Anyways,
And but seeing him like gave me a new energy because especially up to this point, I thought jazz music was
old
just
shit.
old niggas in suits,
Yeah.
to put it frankly.
Christian Scott's also an important influence, I think, along with
So
Robert Glasper.
so seeing him is just like, oh wait, like we can play jazz and be lit. Because also at this time, like I'm going to high school. I have a Bape hoodie. Like I'm trying to look like Kanye
Right,
West.
I feel you.
So to see somebody
Who was cool as
playing
shit. Fluent.
trumpet, but also like looking like he was around us growing up, it meant a lot. And so that made me say, all right, I want to try to go to Berkeley.
That's the same thing that Robert Glasper said about Roy Hargrove.
Yeah, when I first heard Roy, that made things very different because that connected a lot of things for me, especially. But
Yeah.
even with Roy, my guy was always Woody Shaw.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Woody Shaw was
He's someone I never really listened to that much, man. I feel bad saying that. Really, like I really do. But I need to. What is like, in your opinion, like the Woody Shaw album to listen to?
Rosewood or Stepping Stones.
Okay, thank you.
And and if you can find it, Blackstone Legacy.
Okay, hold on. Wait. There's an album called Rosewood, and then there's Stepping Stones, right? The live
Yeah,
one at the Village
yeah,
Vanguard.
that's the one. And if you can find it, listen to Blackstone Legacy.
Oh shit. Okay, so this one has. I just saw Joe Henderson is on this one. Rosewood.
Yeah, yeah. Him
I'd
and
like to
Joe
see
playing a lot
who's on it,
together.
just to give myself a little preview of what it might sound like.
And if you want a treat, he did a double album with Freddie Hubbard.
Oh shit, that sounds like lines on top of lines.
So here's some cool shit.
Yeah, I definitely got
When
to
I
hear that.
was when I was in my senior year of high school,
That was your album.
uh,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
well, yeah, but yeah, I was definitely listening to a lot of the two of them. But a trumpet player here, great trumpet player by the name of Rex Richardson. I started hanging with him, and he put me on to a lot of stuff. And one thing he showed me was like I think his doctorate thesis, which was just an analysis on Freddie Hubbard and Woody Shaw styles
Mm.
while playing this album where they were side by side. And me at the time, like you couldn't tell me that anybody was playing better shit than Woody Shaw. I'm like, no, this guy
Mhm.
from everybody, period. And Rex used to laugh and be like, no, but you gotta wait because you'll hear it. Freddie starts playing Woody stuff better than him. And I was like, maybe he can't be doing that. And that's when I realized that Freddie Hubbard may have been the most dangerous man on the face of the planet because
It sounded like it when you hear him play. It's like he sounded like he had a goddamn machine gun or like a
but
weapon.
when you hear the contrast between their styles on albums of their own, that's the first thing you have to take notice of. But when you hear how quickly Freddie catches on to what Woody Shaw is playing
Mhm.
and throws it back in his own way, that's when you realize that Freddie was actually
It's on another
cra-
level.
crazier than you thought before.
Yeah. You know, that reminds me. I literally today just watched this video, which probably like a lot of jazz musicians have seen. It's Charlie Parker and Coleman Hawkins playing together, like on video.
Mhm.
Probably everyone's seen it. If not, then check it out. But kind of reminds me of that same thing. It's almost like two different eras. But I feel like Woody and Freddie, they're kind of the same era, weren't they?
They are, but their natural styles are very different.
Yeah. This one was more like a passing of the torch type of a thing, from Coleman Hawkins to Charlie Parker. Even though they're probably not too. I mean, Coleman Hawkins is definitely a lot older, but we think of them as not that far apart. But anyways, yeah, it was just crazy to hear the contrast of styles. The same thing, Coleman Hawkins, such a much more slow,
Hmm.
and Charlie Parker comes through and everything's like 16th notes, but it all makes sense though. It's all like you slow it down. It's like not playing the same stuff, but it's like playing, you know, his
The,
own
the,
thing, man. I mean, I don't know. Like he kind of had his own. I don't know, man. It's kind of weird. It's almost like Bach. It's like you just take what's before you and you just make it your own in a way that's
Mhm.
kind of perfect. I feel like that's kind of
Another
Charlie Parker with his melodies.
another example of that is this album, I think The Night of the Cookers, and it's Lee Morgan playing live,
I've heard of that.
but then Freddie comes on stage.
I think I've heard of that, but yeah, I gotta hear that.
And there's this other one that I think is just like a legend between Roy Eldridge and Dizzy Gillespie, where Dizzy pulled up and burned Roy so bad that like Roy cried outside or something like that.
That's yeah, that sounds like one of those fantasies. I don't know if that's true. I need someone who was there to verify that.
I mean,
You know how there's a lot of these stories. There's a lot of these stories and legends. I'm not sure which ones are true or not, but I would say Dizzy. He's the type of
was scared.
player to where you just you go. I can't ever do that. No matter
And
how hard I practice.
especially the time where he rose, he was a scary
Oh, when
man.
he was on the rise.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because no trumpet player was doing anything relatively
they
close to
have an
what he was.
album together. It's from 1954. I did
Well,
not know that. Oh my God, Oscar
that's
Peterson's
years
on
after.
piano, and Ray Brown's on bass. So you know it's a great album.
Hmm.
I gotta hear that, man. That's the thing about jazz. Like, it's so deep, man. It's like you think you know about this music, and then you get slapped upon the side of the head with some shit you never heard of before.
Yeah, because it's a history of moments that just take place on any given day. A good concert can happen at the drop of a dime, and you never know what's going to make like the lexicon of jazz history. It just does. If it gets recorded, it's up for grabs to be part of the history.
So no, man. I already know I gotta bring you. I gotta bring you back on the podcast. Like we're not even. We're only like an hour into it, but I already know like we could go on for another couple hours, no problem. But
For
I want
sure.
to be respectful of your time. I don't want to hold you on here, keep you hostage. But I want to ask you a couple more questions.
Sure thing.
Um, where, without be giving your exact location, where are you right now? Like, where are you in the country?
804.
You're out in the VA. I
Yes,
don't know
I am.
area codes, man. You can't hate it for like what is. I don't
I
know, bro.
am.
I hardly know my own area code. Shit.
I am in the
Hell
greatest
yeah.
place on earth.
So I've never been to Richmond actually.
So
I don't even think I haven't been to Virginia. I've been to West Virginia. That's the closest I've been. I would love
I
to go,
got you.
man. When I come through, what are the things like? What's like the mandatory? Like, I mean, I'm gonna hit you up for 1,000%. I'm gonna hit you up. But what is like the things you need to see if you go through Richmond, like this as a
Well,
human or as a musician?
people come here to eat and drink. That's first and foremost.
I'm a food guy. I'm all about getting the food that I
But
can't get anywhere else.
especially the drinking though, because we started to become a nice little beer capital.
Oh, for real?
Yeah. But besides that, there's like countless sites and pieces of Black history, general American history, all sorts of things around the city. There's always there's always some kind of artistic event going on here.
So
There's
with the whole shutdowns and shit, is shit opening back up in Richmond, or did it never even shut down, or what is it like? Because out here in California, shit is kind of rough. They don't want to open
yeah.
shit back up. It's this kind of
So
this lingering thing. Go ahead.
I spent half a lockdown in California, so I know
Oh
what you
yeah, oh
mean.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, yeah, you were out. Yeah, you
Um,
were out here for a minute. Uh huh.
but I mean, things are opening here. They just lifted all of the capacity restrictions for the state. Um, and I'm pretty sure they're going to lift all COVID related restrictions before the end of June. But there's definitely shows already starting to
Mm-hmm.
happen. Um, it's going to be a nice little gradual opening here, but there's a lot of things to look forward to here. And for those who are interested, we're going to join the other states that legalize adult use for marijuana
Oh
come
hell
July
yeah!
1st.
I'm so surprised y'all haven't done that already. I'm surprised the whole goddamn country. I'm surprised it's still a Schedule One drug, and CBD, which is non-psychoactive, is a Schedule One drug.
Well,
I don't get it, man.
I'm not too surprised that it took us long just because we are part of the ex-Confederacy. So it's not like you could expect us to be the quickest. I'd say Virginia might be the most progressive of all the southern states, but not compared to the country as a whole, not too far.
But do you guys have it legally? Don't y'all have it? Do you guys have? I'm sorry, medicinally. Like, could you get a medical card in Virginia?
Yeah, but that was as of this year too, I
Oh, only
believe.
recently. Okay,
Yeah.
all right. So with stuff opening back up and stuff like that, I mean, I think that a lot of musicians pretty much like went through a pause. You know, like put their schedule, their calendars. Like, okay, just gonna have to wait for a minute. At least that was my case. Um, but what I want to ask you is with things starting to slowly open back up, what are your um, pretty much like what are your loose plans? Like, I mean, let's just say in a year from now, shit's back open, venues are happening again, people are touring again, booking shows. Shit, for the most part, back to quote unquote normal.
Hmm.
What would you like to be doing or working on, or what do you see like, you know, your the next moves that you're making and the projects you're working on, the stuff you're trying to bring to light. The last thing I've seen that I feel that I've seen you put out was a video with Trap Music Orchestra covering the baby song. Um, so I just wanted to ask you like what are things you have like coming up that people should like be on the lookout for?
Um, One of the major parts of the plan is to finally just let go of things I've been holding on to, kind of greedily, like a hoarder.
I feel that
Um, but uh,
with the plan though, right? Right.
here's a cool thing.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a cool thing. Uh, while while we've kind of been a little bit more isolated than usual, um, I've gotten into the practice of just dabbling into a lot of other creative tools, right? So I could say what might come out, right? But it's
You don't
way
have to.
more, I could, but it's way more exciting to just see how varied it is. For example, like I can tell you there's like a trap music orchestra mixtape on the way, but there's also something like I've been working on doing visual direction for artists. Um,
Yeah, man. I
I
saw that
did
you
a lot.
designed. Have you been designing some like album art and stuff like that?
Yeah, I've been doing some directions. Even for the past, I think 2, 3 years, I've been
Yeah,
working
I feel like
with.
you've been doing that for. I mean, I remember someone you designing some stuff a while ago. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I've been working with. Shout out Lillian Caputo. I've been working with her for about 2, 3 years, and just finding ways to branch that off into just like another realm of experience. Um, Investing a lot of tools for that. And working on how to like just reshape my approach to a lot of things. For example, like I know I've gotten known not just for like trap music orchestra, but You know that I've done a lot of Jay Dilla related stuff while in Boston.
Mm-hmm.
And as much as that's like really a piece of me, I'm also like experimenting on the whole of its side of the spectrum. So it'll be interesting to see what that how that gets received. It's all a party bag over here. You really never know what you're going to get, but the the best part of it for me is the story that gets told along with it. I'm really big on that.
Right.
How with how a story is told. So
I
that's
think.
the part I'm most excited for, is to now expand and tell more of the story through a lot of different mediums in a lot of different ways. Because I know, for example, like at least once a day, I might say something very random, but it's also very interconnected. So figuring out how to reconstruct these breadcrumbs into something cohesive and coherent.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll be doing that soon. But also just, always reaching for something new.
So yeah, man, you said a lot there that got my mind thinking. One thing I wanted to definitely say is that I think that I mean, well, the first thing I want to before I forget this thought is yeah, the whole storytelling element. I think it's very important for artists. Like thinking about how they're trying to tell their story because like and the way you perceive it is different for someone who's brand new to it or maybe doesn't, you know. So it's like how do you um, propose this idea or how do you put this forth in a way where they can see the full big picture, or if not they can at least be led on those breadcrumbs to understand at the end of it what it's all about, you know. And not just because it's like yeah man, like for example, like I'm working on an album called Jazz Man, and it's literally not a jazz album. Like I know some people are gonna be like, why it's called Jazz Man, why is this all like, you know, 808 and like what is this? But for me, it's like, you know, it's just like being a superhero. You know what I mean? It's like Superman. You know what I mean? It's like this is our super ability. Like we can express our emotions and our perspective with music. Like not everyone has that gift. You know. And but storytelling, you know, what you said, that's marketing. You know, like they're kind of synonymous. Like how you present this, how you get everyone to hear your story. You know, how you take them along for the journey for your ride. You know, and it doesn't have to be all in one song or in one video, but it's just like overall. You know, like how are you telling that narrative? But the other thing I wanted to say is, you know, you mentioned how you're into creative design and visual design and like other things, and I think you are definitely like a creative person. Like if you never did music, I think you would definitely still be a creative, like 100% still be a creative person. And I think that's one thing that more I don't know. I hate trying to speak like generalizing other musician stuff because everyone's their own person, but I just think that overall more people should embrace like more musicians should embrace the non-musical shit that they do. You know what I mean? And see how that can feed back into their music. Because music is like shit. Like we think of music as the foreground, but a lot of times it's the background. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? But if you can find out how to make your music like in those other spaces that isn't like the highlight, like oh we're here to see my concert,
Mm-hmm.
that's when you start branching out and having a whole new audience. You know, um, so I just think it's like I think it's important that musicians get into other stuff. And I want to ask you, what other things outside of music, like what you feel like? I mean, you mentioned the visual design, but what do you feel like are things you would do? Like for example, like if you if you can never do music again, God forbid, like what do you feel like are like what do you think you would like pursue and like really devote all that time into? You know, like and what other things are you already doing? You know that you would just like go 110% on, like you know.
Um, so before even wanted to be a musician, I wanted to be an author. So that's one thing. I do a lot of writing. Um, one one thing I really want to do is to be like a columnist,
What's
where
a columnist?
just like a person who write or just a person who writes op-eds. Like I wanted to have a section in a publication that I had to myself where I could just write my shit
Hmm.
and it gets read.
I think that the best. I mean, yeah. Keep going. Keep going. I'm gonna let you finish. But that's
Um,
dope. So you wanted to really write like for a specific publication, be an author, okay?
yeah, like
So basically,
for
like
the like
loosely,
for
we
the
could
New
just say
York
just to
Times.
be a writer.
Yeah,
I don't really, you know.
absolutely to be doing writing.
Hmm.
When I was in LA, crazy shit. It was maybe 4 or 5 months before Jordan Peele announced that he was working on Candyman, right?
Okay, I don't know what Candyman. I have not been tuning into Jordan Peele. What's Candyman?
Or
Is that like this? Is that some post? Is it a show or is it a movie?
it's a classic movie,
Is it
horror movie
okay?
that
So
takes place. You
is it
just
post Get Out? And it's already
no,
came
no,
out.
whoa, whoa. This has nothing to do.
No,
It's a
I'm
it's
saying
a
did it come
remake.
out after or
It
before?
hasn't. It's well after. It hasn't come out yet.
Okay, okay.
But
So
this
that's why I
is
haven't heard of it. You're
so. This is
you're acting like I should know about something that hasn't come out yet.
no. But Candyman is a movie that was made already.
He's remaking it.
Yes, he's
Okay, okay,
remaking it.
okay. So I gotta watch the
Kenny,
original.
the original came out in '92,
Okay.
uh, but before he announced he was remaking it, I had in a big ass sketchbook gotten an idea that drew a lot of inspirations from the original work, and I drew out a whole storyboard. And I looked at it, I was like, I want to film this. So I would most definitely be doing something where you know storytelling was still centered on it. So it's like writing or designing or trying to direct something. These are all the things that I'd probably be doing
Hmm.
because, especially with words, because words and stories have always been very,
Man, you've always
very,
been really good with words and your thoughts, like in a way that's like you could tell that you think about shit. You know what I mean? It's like you know what I mean, man. Like a lot of people just say whatever the fuck the first thing that comes to their mind. A lot of people just say whatever the fuck they heard the last person say.
mm,
You know, you're someone who it's like I can get a unique perspective, and it's like I'm gonna hear it coming from you. Maybe I don't agree with you, but at least I know that that's how you really feel. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And that's the type of people I really fuck with. It's like we don't have to see eye to eye on shit, but at least just be real with your perspective and why you feel that way. You know, and then out of that realness, other people will relate to your real, you know, to who you are. You know, and I think that you've managed to do that. Like you're someone who I feel like all your relationships are like just because people know who you are. You know what I mean? Like people are like know that you're not someone who's just gonna like be fake as fuck for this group of people. You know what I mean? And people gravitate towards that. It's like, all right, Ryan just is the way he is. As you said, it's you know you can be stubborn, but it's like it's just who you are. You know, that's you being firm in knowing who you are. You know what I mean? So that's also what it is too. So it's like I'm stubborn as hell too, man. I mean, shit. I've had musicians I work with tell me I don't take criticism well and all this stuff, and that's for me it's totally fine. Like when I'm writing the music, I'm telling you how it goes. You know what I mean? When it's your song, I will ask you how it goes. You know,
Uh,
and that's the thing. I don't
yeah.
know. That's one thing I want to say to musicians out there is like respect the composer, the arranger, whoever's vision it is that you're helping bring to life. You gotta respect that. You know what I mean? Like whether or not you agree or think this is necessarily how it should be done. Sometimes people will bring you in because they want to hear what they want to hear what you add bring to it. You know, like they want to hear your ideas. But sometimes you gotta just be like, you know, like have that kind of orchestra mindset. I didn't learn that till I was playing in community college. I was playing guitar in an Afro-Cuban ensemble, and in my mind, I'm trying to sound like Al Di Meola, John McLaughlin. You know, trying to play this like super distorted, like but playing in the context of an Afro-Cuban ensemble.
Mhm.
And the director had to stop and tell me like, nah, you got a clean. We need a clean guitar sound. Like you got way too much distortion stuff going on. Like this isn't appropriate for what the context.
Mhm.
And then I started learning around that time that everything it fits a bigger picture. You know, um, yeah, man. We go on and on, but so, yeah. So you say you'd be directing, you'd be writing, and I want to encourage you to do those things, man. I've been trying to write a screenplay for a while. I haven't. I've been kind of sitting on it, and it's kind of one of those things where it's like I know I need to finish it. I know I need to do it, but
Well,
I haven't. Uh
one
huh.
thing I can say that is coming soon is I co-wrote a children's book with my mother. We're gonna
Wow.
release that soon.
Hell yeah, man. Let me know when that comes out. I definitely will. Tell people I know to check that out. Do you have a working title?
Uh,
That's beautiful though, man.
the main character's I don't know what the final title is, but the main character's name is Bookie.
Bookie,
And
okay.
but my mother's working on a series for children of color to encourage them to really get into STEM education, science, technology, engineering, and math.
Mm-hmm.
So the first one she did that I helped her out with was about a girl that wants to be a fashion designer. And this one about Bookie is going to be about a kid who wants to design video games.
Dope.
So I've actually got, hold on. So this is the first one.
Ooh, again that sneak
Uh,
peek.
this is the first one. It's already out. It's called Emerald Jones, the Fashion Designer Diva.
Damn.
Then you can pick that up at like an Amazon.
Whoa, hell yeah, man. Let's run that up. All right, hold up. Let me see what it's called again. Emerald Jones. Tell me the name again.
The Fashion Designer Diva.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's my mother. Yeah, appreciate that. Hmm. Mm. Right. Hmm. Well, it comes down to this. W- Uh, no matter what you do or no matter what you like, you're human, and with being human comes responsibilities, and you just have to meet the demand of those. However, you have to. But when it comes to something like balancing like being a musician and something else, it's just like when that becomes introduced, it has to be introduced as a this is a regular thing. This is normal. And I think what puts such a tainted visual on it is that there's a stigma that unless you're making all your money on this singular outlet, that means you aren't good at it. And that's it's really strange how that, still permeates because that's just not even the reality for living in America at all. So I mean, but even to go a little bit further, you don't exist as one thing. You didn't grow up as well. At least I know I didn't grow up as one thing. Like there weren't musicians in my immediate family that I could just hang out with and learn from. Like didn't have none of that. So my father, he's he's a math head. He's a preacher and an architect. And my mother does a lot of community work and education. So from early on, it's just like you understand that there's many different places in this world and you can be in a lot of them. So doing something like writing children's book to encourage them to really take education seriously, that kind of just comes from being in that type of environment myself. So it's just about really recognizing every piece of you did, because everybody's multifaceted. And Mhm. that And then there's another piece. Sometimes you can find exactly what you want out of less than other people are striving for. So let's say that you do play a couple nights a week at random gigs and you're not making the greatest living, but you can keep up. And your center of joy is that if I feel like if you're in America and if something pays your bills, it's instantly validated. So so you can look at it in both ways. It's you know, take full advantage of how multifaceted you can be and go all out, or find your center. If there's acceptable outcomes no matter how you want to get into it, as long as you know you're finding yourself and what you need to be met. So I encourage that for anybody. It's like, yeah, to survive out here, you're probably gonna have a whole lot of hustles. For a lot of us, it's that way. And if that's what you want, please go out and get it with all seriousness. But, there's also no pressure because I feel like that's something that burns a lot of cats out and makes them kind of lose track of some of the things they're a little bit more passionate about. So I don't want to see that fall upon anybody either.
I think that's the kind of leads into a good question, which is like, what you said about how you can, you don't necessarily need to be making the most money or something to be happy from doing something,
Hmm.
and for it to be fulfilling for you. And I think that kind of draws back to a couple of different things. One is how we define success, because like I think that's like a big either like pitfall musicians fall into,
Hmm.
or something that is why they're successful. It's like how you define success, and it's different for everyone, and that's why I'm curious to hear from you. So yeah, I want to ask how you would define how you define success, just generally speaking. It doesn't even have to be in music.
If you can smile waking up and going to sleep in the same day, you got it.
Hmm.
But it has to be both. You can do both, you good to go. And just like that, it's one day at a time.
I feel that. I feel that. Huh? Well, thank you so much for sharing that, man. I think that what I definitely have to say is that we definitely have to run this podcast back in like a month or whatever, because for one thing, I just love talking to you.
For
You're
sure.
just a dope person,
It was
and
great.
I like to stay connected with you. And I mean, I would love to have you on just to talk about shit like, what do you think about this J Cole album? What do you think about fucking Joe Budden getting roasted by everybody? Like, because I know you're also like just a good personality. You know what I mean? And I feel like we could bounce well back and forth, even if we may not share the same opinion on everything.
Hmm.
And I'd love to just hear you like just what your take on what's happening in the world. You're an intellectual, and someone I think that I would like to hear from. I think other people would like to hear from you too. And yeah, so I left. And the other reason is because I was having audio issues. I didn't realize
Oh, it's
because
fine.
I'm recording on OBS Studio. I'm not recording on Zoom,
Hmm.
and I didn't realize I had my mic muted for certain portions of it. So certain portions of audio may only hear you and not hear me. You were talking a little bit more than me, so hopefully it doesn't ruin the whole episode, but I know that that's gonna not be as ideal. So I definitely want to get you back on, and
Yeah, we can set that up.
yeah, I mean, it's
All
wide
good.
open. So I'm really trying to build this, and just like this, like having conversations, putting it out, letting people see it. The more people fuck with you, more people will maybe tune into the next one, and
Hmm.
just try to keep it going. I met Joe Rogan, and he has the biggest podcast ever, and like I remember watching his shit when it was very first starting, and they never ever thought it was gonna be like what it is today. Literally the biggest platform, like period, in the world. Like
Never
you know
know.
what I mean?
Never
Um,
know.
and I just feel like that's how it is with all the shit that we do. Like, shit, I think when you first thought of trap music orchestra, I don't think you could even have thought of what it was gonna grow into. You know what I mean? There's no way you could have. Like,
Mhm.
you were like, okay, let me try to, like you have an idea in your mind, but what it, the gigs and the everything that comes from it is like, there's no way you can predict that.
It's just a moment. It wasn't even.
You're just
I don't
doing
know.
what
It was
you're just
just the
doing
act
what
of
feels
doing.
natural. Exactly. You're
It
just
was just
doing
the
what
act of
felt
doing.
natural in the moment. This is what I should do. I'm gonna do it, following it day by and you look back and see, okay, we did something, and that's how it should be. Like that's really how it should
Yeah.
be. Is like just pursuing your natural inspiration and curiosity and just seeing where that leads. And that's the beautiful thing. It's like that's why I love being an artist. Is just like I can chase my curiosity and my desire, and then I get to capture it, and then press play for someone else. Someone else gets
Hmm.
to see it. So that's what we try to do, and I think that you've done a great job at that, and I'm excited to hear like
Thank you.
I'm excited to hear like the body of work, the ocean of music that you have coming. Like I already know so many songs you have just waiting, just finding the right time, the right marketing strategy, the right video, the right release. Because I'm in a similar camp. I have one album that I'm trying to like get out right now, but I feel like you probably have like six, like no cap.
I don't know. I think one of the things that gets in the way for me a lot is I'm way too meticulous. So I'm going to be excited to see what happens if I kind of hold myself back from trying to be good at anything.
Holding
That's going to
yourself
be
back
fun.
from trying to be good. What do you mean by that? Say that in a different way. Because that's kind of like a double negative. You know what I mean?
Is it?
So basically, what you mean is you either stop getting in your own way.
Bingo.
Okay. I think that one thing that may help you with that, and also me, because like I'm a completely like solo dolo type of like artist. Like I'm from inception to conception, whatever, however you want to say it. From the idea to the mastering and to the I'm totally doing it. And I've rarely, if I bring someone in, it's for a specific function. I need you to record violin on this. I need you to do just this one thing. But I think that one thing that you could benefit from, I know take this with a grain of salt. And myself is like you when you start to delegate responsibility to other people to do things, then it takes less things that you have to do, and then
Hmm.
you can put that responsibility of being so meticulous on someone else. And I never do it, but like if I had a record label type of budget, I would do it. I would get the best person who I think can mix and let them mix it. I'd get someone else let them master. I'd get someone else. You make the beat, because then you put less responsibility on yourself, and all you have to focus on. Let me focus on the best vocal performance, the best trumpet performance, the arrangement, the composition. Like you get to focus on the other things, let other people do other stuff, and then if it comes out trash, you get to blame them, like Kanye. Well, yeah, the mix was shitty. Yep, I'm not hiring him again. Wasn't me. That's the thing with me. Is like when this shit comes
I
out
guess
bad,
that's
I
all
gotta
right.
like, Yeah, I didn't know how to
Uh,
mix back then. That was only my first album. I didn't know how to mix. I didn't know what I was doing. I just did it.
uh, uh. That is definitely one way to look at it.
But you know what I'm saying though, right?
Yeah, I know what
Because
you're
it's like if
saying.
you got mad songs and shit, but you like, and that's what all these, I forget who was telling me, but it's like all these artists have teams. They got a team of people producing the music,
Hmm.
mixing it, doing the marketing, doing the visual design. Team, it's like, and it might be the team might be this one person, it might be two people, but it's like they got someone who like that's what they do.
That is right.
And yeah, I think that's just important because it's like I don't know, I just feel like when someone tells me, if I forget who told me this, one of my friends, but it's like, hey man, like you got to realize if you're competing with a team, yeah, it's my friend Sherlin. Shout out to Sherlin, but you got to realize, man, if you're trying to do all this shit on your own, you're competing with teams of people out here, and so you're never gonna win if you're trying to go up against a team s- solo. You know what I mean? And
Hmm.
that's something I'm still working on. You know what I mean? Like I'm like, okay, that's great advice, but I need to implement that. And yeah, man. All I know is for my next release, I definitely gotta hire a marketing team to just solely y'all make sure this shit gets some fucking spins. Like,
That's the way to go, man. Just
yeah, just
hand over business.
another investment. Yeah, I mean, and it could be anything. It can be anything. It could be like, all right, let me get a team of like people I trust to be like, yo, tell me which songs are trash and which ones should definitely go on. Like that's because that's what they all have. Like, I don't think Kendrick is choosing his track list. I really don't. I really don't. I think he's showing it to Top Dog, and he's like, all right, this is your album right here. Out of this 20 songs, these 11 songs or these 9 songs, this is the next album.
As long as you got a team for what you need, that's just all that's important, you know?
Absolutely, and I mean, and let's all remember, our first team is your family. Like your family, those people who are there since you're a kid, and like who know you outside the context of just music or whatever. That's your real team that you
That's
need to
right.
like value and protect, and then everyone else is pretty much like they come and go. But your family, they will always be there for you, man. And on that note, man, I'm gonna let you go. I want to say you're my brother. I appreciate you. I value
Likewise.
you.
Likewise, for real.
And all I know is we're definitely doing this again. So when the time is right, you know what I mean. Like when you got something you want to say, hit me up. You know what I mean? I don't want to just drag you on here to
No,
shoot
it's
the shit, ask
fine.
how the weather was doing, but when you got something you want to say or you feel like we can like we can do round two, like I would love to have you back on. I already know it's gonna be easy with you because we got so much to talk about. I didn't even ask you a lot of the shit I wanted to ask you, but we're like I think we're at that 2 hour. Oh no, we're like an hour and 40 minutes. All right, but I want to keep it
Mhm.
not too long so people actually might listen to the whole thing.
For sure. No, we can do this whenever, really.
So on that note, man, what are the last things you want to say to whoever might tune into this in terms of what they should be looking out for you? Where can they find you? Like, in terms of your social media or wherever you want them to like tap in with you. Where should people go to check out Ryan Easter?
Follow me on this is funny as hell. Follow me
Nah,
on
man. I mean, it's
Instagram.
like I know, like we don't really like to be like that. Like you don't always be like, "Yo, follow me," but like people who want to follow you, like they want to know where to go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I
So
gotta. I'm growing into getting into that because I'm old school as a motherfucker. Like
yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
I'm what the manual setting is for. That's me. I'm the manual setting on something. But yeah, follow me on Instagram, Mr. Ryan Easter. And as far as you know what to look, just know it's all storytelling. And anything besides that, all you gotta do is ask the right questions.
Yeah, Mr. Ryan Easter on social media, and man, definitely tap in with Ryan. Like he's a wealth of knowledge, and I just know you got so much in store for us. You know what I mean? I already know. I'm just waiting to see
Uh,
more and more and more. You know, but I know that it's all methodical. Same with my shit. It's like, you know, you kind of you put out shit, and then you're like, all right, let me try to get more strategy with this shit. You know. So that's kind of I feel like where I'm at. I imagine that's where you are to some extent. You know, you got a bunch of shit in the chamber. It's just, you know, you got to make sure the right people are watching.
if you're watching, you're the right person.
Hey, facts. You see, that's exactly why you're on here right now. Because that's the truth. Like, if you're watching, you're the right person, and that's the mentality to have. Like whenever I go live and there's like 5 people in that shit, I'm like, yo, you are the dopest 5 people on the fucking planet right now. You know what I mean? It's like it doesn't matter who's watching, bro. It's just like the fact, like anyone, bro. Like you can change. Like it just takes one person. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
sometimes just one person will message me like, "Yo, man, when can I buy your album on vinyl or something?" Like that one person will be my motivation to go keep fucking trying to finish my shit. Cause it's like, okay, I got people actually trying to listen to this shit. Let me keep working on it. You
That's
know,
right.
sometimes we think it's like, oh, I'm the only one who's gonna be listening to this shit, but nah, man.
You never know. And that's the best part is when you don't know, because then you can be curious. And once you can't be curious, you can't really be alive, can you? So
That's facts.
stay curious. That's a good one to leave out
Yeah,
on. Is
man, we're
stay
gonna end it
curious.
on that note, man. Stay curious. You got your boy Ryan Easter in the building on the A on the Beat podcast. Thank you so much for coming through, and to be continued, man.
Thanks for having me, bro.